Shadows and spreadsheets. Olivia Tanaka's fingers hovered over her keyboard as she stared at the blinking cursor on her screen. Outside her small cubicle, the sprawling offices of Phoenix Horizon hummed with activity, the low murmur of engineers and designers punctuated by occasional bursts of laughter. 3 weeks into her new job as a systems analyst, and she still felt like an imposter in this gleaming temple of aerospace innovation. Running the simulations again? Dmitry leaned against her cubicle wall, coffee in hand. With his perpetually rumpled shirt and kind eyes, the senior analyst had become her unofficial mentor. "If time today," Olivia sighed, tucking a strand of dark hair behind her ear. "The propulsion efficiency numbers aren't matching the projected models," Dmitry nodded. "Welcome to Phoenix. Nothing ever works the first time, or the fifth. That's why we're here. Or the reason we'll all develop caffeine addictions," she replied with a small smile. "Speaking of which, ... Dmitry's eyes darted toward the main corridor. "Heads up." The shadow's making his rounds. Olivia didn't need to ask who the shadow was. Harrison Reed, founder and CEO of Phoenix Horizon, had a reputation for appearing silently in departments, observing without comment, then disappearing just as mysteriously. At 42, he'd built the company from nothing into a contender against aerospace giants, earning himself both industry respect and the nickname the Ghost for his elusive nature and cold demeanor. She'd only seen him twice since her interview once, at new employee orientation, where he spoke for exactly 7 minutes about the company's mission before handing the presentation back to HR, and once in the elevator, where he'd nodded politely before returning to his phone call. Straightening her posture, Olivia returned to her analysis as the air in the office subtly shifted. She didn't need to look up to know Harrison Reed had entered their department. His presence seemed to drop the temperature by several degrees, conversations fading to whispers as he moved between workstations with casual grace. "Mr. Jimenez," she heard him say to Dmitry, his voice unexpectedly warm. "How's the Falcon stabilization progressing?" "On schedule, sir. Olivia here has actually found some interesting anomalies in the thrust vectoring data." Olivia felt her cheeks warm as Harrison's gaze shifted to her. His eyes were startlingly clear, somewhere between gray and blue, set in a face that rarely betrayed emotion. "Miss Tanaka, you've been with us 3 weeks." His question suggested he knew exactly how long she'd been employed. "Yes, sir," she replied, straightening slightly. "And you've already found anomalies in our flagship project?" She couldn't tell if he was impressed or skeptical. "Just inconsistencies in the simulation data versus the physical tests. Cross-referencing with historical launches to see if there's a pattern." Harrison's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in his eyes' interest. "Perhaps forward me your findings by end of day." With that, he continued his rounds, leaving Olivia to exhale slowly. "Congratulations," Dmitry whispered. "You've officially been noticed by the Ghost. Is that good or bad?" she asked, pulse still racing from the brief interaction. "Depends. He doesn't waste time on mediocrity, so either you've impressed him, or ... or you've found something that could cost millions to fix." Dmitry grinned. "Either way, you're on his radar now." That evening, Olivia stayed 2 hours past her scheduled departure, meticulously organizing her findings before sending them to Harrison Reed. Her small apartment waited, still half unpacked. From her cross-country move for this position, friends had questioned why she'd take a mid-level job at Phoenix when larger companies had courted her after graduation. She couldn't explain that after watching her father spend 30 years as an unappreciated cog in a massive corporation. She wanted to work somewhere her contributions might actually matter. As she rode the elevator down to the parking garage, her phone chimed with an email notification. "Miss Tanaka, your analysis is thorough. Meet me in conference room C tomorrow, 8 a.m. We need to discuss implications." Reed. Olivia stared at the message, her stomach tightening. Tomorrow would determine whether finding those anomalies had been her first triumph at Phoenix Horizon or her last. Calculated Risks Conference Room C was nestled in the executive wing of Phoenix Horizon, a sleek space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Olivia arrived 15 minutes early, clutching her tablet and a coffee that had gone cold. During her nervous wait in the lobby, she'd slept poorly, reviewing her calculations until 2 a.m., convinced she'd missed something critical. The door opened precisely at 8 o'clock, and Harrison Reed entered with two other executives she recognized as Chief Engineer Vivian Porter and Finance Director Thomas Wellington. Harrison nodded at her, gesturing toward the presentation screen. "Ms. Tanaka, please walk us through your findings." Taking a steadying breath, Olivia connected her tablet to the display. "I've identified a systematic error in the Falcon's thrust vectoring system that appears during specific atmospheric conditions." Her voice grew stronger as she immersed herself in the data. "The simulations show optimal performance, but the physical tests reveal a 4.7% efficiency drop during stratospheric transition." For 20 minutes, she guided them through her analysis, pointing out where the discrepancies originated and how they compounded throughout the system. When she finished, the room fell silent. Thomas Wellington frowned. "This is accurate. We're looking at a potential 6-month delay to redesign the system. And approximately $14 million in additional costs," Vivian added grimly. Harrison remained impassive, studying the projections. "If we ignore it," Olivia hesitated but chose honesty. "Best case, the Falcon performs below promised specifications, damaging our credibility. Worst case, catastrophic failure during critical mission phases." The executives exchanged glances. Thomas sighed heavily. "The investors won't be pleased. They'll be less pleased with an exploding spacecraft," Harrison replied dryly. He turned to Olivia. "Do you have a proposed solution, or are you simply bringing us problems?" The question stung, but Olivia was prepared. She swiped to her final slides. Developed 3 potential approaches. The third is unconventional, but could save both time and resources. Her alternative design involved a fundamental reconfiguration of the vectoring system, simpler, it's more elegant, and crucially implementable within the existing development timeline. Vivian leaned forward, clearly intrigued. "This is unorthodox. It's theoretically sound," Olivia countered. "I ran simulations all night. Theoretical isn't good enough for human spaceflight." Thomas objected. Harrison, who had been silent, finally spoke. "Have fabrication produce a prototype. Ms. Tanaka will oversee implementation." He fixed his clear eyes on Olivia. "You found the problem? Now prove your solution works." The meeting concluded abruptly, with Vivian and Thomas departing to address the implications for their departments. Harrison lingered, studying Olivia with a new intensity. Most analysts would have buried this finding, fearing the messenger effect. His voice was quieter now, almost contemplative. "Why didn't you?" Olivia met his gaze. "Because I didn't join. Phoenix to climb a corporate ladder? I joined to build spacecraft that don't fail?" Something like approval flickered across his face. "The Falcon is our most ambitious project. You understand what's at stake if your solution fails? I wouldn't have proposed it if I wasn't confident. Confidence and correctness aren't always aligned, Ms. Tanaka." "Then I'll have to ensure they are in this case, Mr. Reed." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Welcome to the Falcon team. Your regular duties are suspended until further notice." Over the next 4 weeks, Olivia's life became a blur of prototypes, tests, and endless refinements. Her cubicle was abandoned for a workstation in the Falcon Development Lab, where she often worked past midnight alongside engineers twice her age. Harrison made daily appearances, asking pointed questions and occasionally suggesting modifications to her design. Unlike his reputation suggested, he wasn't cold so much as intensely focused. When discussing technical details, his intelligence was formidable, his insights cutting through complexities with remarkable clarity. He remembered every specification, every test result, and expected the same attention to detail from his team. On the day of the critical test, Olivia stood beside Harrison in the observation room, both staring at monitors displaying the prototype's performance metrics. The vectoring system would either validate her solution or prove her critics right. "Initiating sequence," announced the test engineer. The prototype fired up, its readings flooding the screens as the system encountered the simulated atmospheric conditions that had revealed the original flaw. Olivia held her breath, watching the Efficiency metrics. Harrison stood so close she could smell his subtle colin-something with notes of cedar and bergamot. His presence should have made her nervous, but instead she found it oddly steadying. The test concluded. The room erupted in relieved chatter as the results confirmed success her redesign had maintained. Optimal efficiency throughout all test conditions. Remarkable work, Vivian declared, studying the results. Harrison turned to Olivia. His expression still composed, but his eyes unmistakably pleased. It seems your unorthodox approach paid off, Miss Tanaka. Thank you for taking the risk. She replied later that evening, as she gathered her things to finally go home at a reasonable hour. Harrison appeared at her workstation. You've earned a proper celebration, he said. The executive team is having dinner at Meridian. You should join us. Olivia blinked in surprise. I'd be honored. At Meridian, one of the city's most exclusive restaurants, Olivia found herself seated beside Harrison at a table of Phoenix's top executives. As wine flowed and conversation drifted from business to personal matters, she glimpsed a different side of the company's leadership hand of Harrison himself. He spoke of books he'd recently read, asked thoughtful questions about her background, and even laughed at Thomas's terrible jokes. The intimidating CEO transformed into something more human, more approachable. As the evening concluded, Harrison walked her to her car. The Falcon team needs someone with your perspective permanently, he said. I'd like you to transfer to advanced projects as a senior analyst. Significant promotion, of course. Ow. Olivia felt a surge of pride. I'd love that opportunity. Under the soft glow of parking lot lights, his smile seemed genuinely warm. Good. We'll formalize it Monday, he hesitated, then added, You've impressed everyone, Olivia, especially me. As she drove home, Olivia realized it was the first time he'd called her by her first name. More surprising was how much she liked hearing it in his voice. Professional Boundary 6 months after joining the Advanced Projects Division, Olivia found herself in a position she never could have anticipated. The Falcon project had evolved from a potential disaster into Phoenix Horizon's crown jewel. With her redesigned vectoring system receiving industry recognition, more surprising was her changing relationship with Harrison Reed. What began as occasional strategy meetings evolved into regular working sessions, often extending well into the evening. They developed an unspoken rhythm, Harrison challenging her ideas, Olivia defending them with growing confidence, both pushing each other toward better solutions. The intimidating ghost gradually became simply Harrison, a brilliant mind whose approval she valued perhaps more than she should. You're doing it again, Dmitri commented one afternoon as they shared lunch in the company cafeteria. That little smile whenever your phone chimes with his messages. Olivia quickly schooled her expression. It's project updates at 9 p.m. On Sundays, Dmitri raised an eyebrow. The whole floor is talking, you know. There's nothing to talk about, she insisted, though her cheeks warmed. We work well together, that's all. It wasn't entirely true. Something had shifted between them during a late-night work session 3 weeks earlier. They'd been reviewing simulation data in Harrison's office. Takeout containers pushed aside, when a disagreement about approach parameters led to a passionate debate. You're being unnecessarily cautious, Olivia had argued. The data supports higher tolerances. And if you're wrong, Harrison challenged, leaning forward across his desk, then I'll admit it. But I'm not wrong. Harrison had studied her with those clear eyes, his expression softening unexpectedly. Your confidence is either your greatest strength or your most dangerous liability. Which do you think it is? She'd asked quietly. He'd held her gaze a moment too long. I haven't decided yet. The tension between them had been palpable, professional boundaries suddenly feeling paper-thin. Harrison had broken the moment first, returning to the data with renewed focus, but something had changed. Their subsequent interactions carried an undercurrent of awareness, a careful distance maintained by unspoken agreement. Now, as she dismissed Dimitri's insinuations, Olivia knew she was walking a dangerous line. Harrison was not only her boss, but the company's founder. Any personal entanglement would threaten everything she'd worked to achieve. Olivia. Vivian Porter appeared beside their table. Harrison needs you in the conference room, The NASA representatives have questions about the propulsion integration. In the elevator, Vivian gave her a sidelong glance. You've become quite indispensable to him. Olivia kept her expression neutral. The project is at a critical stage. It's not just the project. Vivian's tone was matter-of-fact. In 3 years, I've never seen him trust anyone's judgment the way he trusts yours. Before Olivia could formulate a response, they reached their floor. The meeting proceeded smoothly, with Harrison deferring to her expertise on technical questions. Afterward, as the NASA officials departed, he asked her to stay behind. They were impressed, he said, gathering his notes, particularly with your projections for the Mars mission adaptation. Thank you. It's exciting to see the technology's potential applications expanding. Harrison nodded, then hesitated. There's an aerospace conference in Geneva next month. I'd like you to present our findings. Olivia's eyes widened. That's a significant opportunity. You've earned it. He paused. I'll be attending as well. Different panel, but same conference. The implication hung between them 5 days in Switzerland, away from the structured environment of Phoenix Horizon. Olivia chose her words carefully. I appreciate your confidence in me. That evening, alone in her apartment, Olivia confronted her conflicted feelings. Attraction to Harrison wasn't simply physical, it was intellectual, a connection she'd never experienced before. Yet she'd worked too hard to risk being labeled as someone who slept her way into opportunity. The Geneva. The conference arrived with unseasonable snow blanketing the city. Olivia's presentation received standing applause. Industry leaders approaching her afterward with questions and compliments. Harrison watched from the back of the room, his pride evident even from a distance. Later, they celebrated over dinner at a small restaurant overlooking Lake Geneva, discussing the day's events and tomorrow's agenda. As they walked back through the snow-covered streets, Harrison's hand occasionally brushed against hers, perhaps accidentally, perhaps not. You were remarkable today, he said as they reached the hotel. Everyone's talking about Phoenix's brilliant young engineer. They're talking about the technology, not me, she demurred. They're talking about both. He studied her in the soft glow of the hotel lights. You don't realize how exceptional you are, do you? The moment stretched between them, possibility, hovering in the cold air. Harrison took a half-step closer, then stopped himself, professional restraint reasserting itself. We should get some rest, he said quietly. Tunnels tomorrow?
Olivia nodded.
Relief and disappointment warring within her. Good night, Harrison. The remainder of the conference maintained the same delicate, balanced professional collaboration, punctuated by moments of connection that neither acted upon. They returned to Phoenix Horizon with their working relationship intact, increasingly complex. 2 weeks later, everything changed. Olivia was summoned to a meeting with Penelope Jiang, CEO of Global Aerospace Dynamics, Phoenix's largest competitor. The offer was unexpected and extraordinary. Director of their new innovation division, double her current salary, with a budget that made Phoenix's resources seem modest by comparison. Take the weekend to consider, Penelope said as they concluded. Lunch, but we'd need your decision by Monday. That afternoon, Olivia sat in her office, staring at the formal offer letter. The position would advance her career by a decade overnight. Yet leaving Phoenix, leaving the team she'd built, the projects she'd nurtured, and yes, leaving Harrison felt like abandoning something precious, just as it was beginning to flourish. Her phone chimed with a message from Harrison. Need your input on the orbital parameters? My office. As she walked toward the executive wing, Olivia made her decision. She would tell him about the offer face-to-face. His reaction would determine everything, whether he saw her as truly valuable to Phoenix or simply as another talented employee who could be replaced. Harrison greeted her with a rare smile that faded as he registered her expression. Something's wrong. Olivia placed the offer letter on his desk. I received this today. He scanned the document, his face returning to the impassive mask she'd first encountered nearly a year ago. When he looked up, his eyes were unreadable. Congratulations, he said, his voice carefully controlled. It's an exceptional opportunity. I haven't accepted yet, but you will. It wasn't a question. It's the logical next step for someone with your talents. Olivia studied him, searching for any indication that he might ask her to stay for the company. For the projects for him. Finding none, she nodded slowly. "I'll submit my formal resignation tomorrow," she said quietly. Dave requested. "Start in 3 weeks." Harrison stood, extending his hand in a painfully professional gesture. "Phoenix Horizon has benefited immensely from your contributions, Ms. Tanaka. You'll be missed." The return to her surname wasn't lost on Olivia. She shook his hand, their touch brief and impersonal. "Thank you for the opportunities you've given me." Walking back to her office, she fought the irrational disappointment burning in her chest. What had she expected? Dramatic declaration? A counteroffer? Harrison was a businessman first. He understood career, its advancement better than most. As she began drafting her resignation letter, Olivia reminded herself that this was for the best. Professional boundaries existed for a reason. Whatever might have developed between them would remain unexplored, a path not taken, a risk not calculated. The Farewell Gala. Phoenix Horizon's annual Innovation Gala fell precisely 1 week before Olivia's final day. Normally, she would have looked forward to the event, a celebration of the company's achievements and a rare opportunity to see her colleagues outside the confines of deadlines and projects. This year, however, she approached it with mixed emotions. Knowing it would be her last, the 2 weeks since submitting her resignation had passed in a blur of knowledge transfers and project handovers. Harrison had been conspicuously absent during this time, traveling to meet with investors and attending industry panels. Their interactions had been limited to brief, formal emails and one painfully cordial video conference with the Falcon team. Olivia stood before her bedroom mirror, smoothing the silver blue gown she'd chosen for the evening. The invitation had specified formal attire, and she'd splurged on something that made her feel confidential: neckline, fitted bodice, and a flowing skirt that caught the light when she moved. Her dark hair was swept into an elegant updo, exposing the delicate curve of her neck. One last night, she told her reflection, keep it professional, gracious, and brief. The gala was held at the Astoria Grand Hotel's ballroom, transformed for the evening with celestial-themed decorations that honored Phoenix's aerospace focus. Stars glittered from midnight blue ceiling drapes, while scale models of the company's spacecraft served as centerpieces for elegant tables. Dimitri intercepted her near the entrance.
Actor!
In his tuxedo. There she is, the traitor abandoning us for greener pastures, he teased, though his smile was tinged with genuine sadness. I prefer to think of it as expanding my horizons, she replied, accepting the champagne flute he offered. Speaking of horizons, wait until you see what they've done with the Falcon display. Your vectoring system is featured prominently. He guided her through the crowd to an elaborate exhibit showcasing Phoenix's achievements. There, indeed, was a detailed model of her redesigned system, labeled with her name and a brief description of the innovation. Harrison insisted, came Vivian's voice as she joined them. Elegant in emerald green, the chief engineer nodded toward the display, said your contribution deserved recognition. Olivia felt a twinge of emotion. That was ... thoughtful of him. He's been different since you announced your departure, Vivian observed. More withdrawn? The ghost is living up to his nickname again. Before Olivia could respond, the lights dimmed slightly, and Thomas Wellington took the small stage at the front of the ballroom. The finance director welcomed everyone to the 7th Annual Innovation Gala, offering familiar platitudes about Phoenix's commitment to pushing boundaries. And now, he concluded, a few words from our founder and CEO, Harrison Reed. Harrison approached the podium, commanding in his perfectly tailored tuxedo. His gaze swept the room before settling, briefly but unmistakably, on Olivia. Phoenix Horizon began with a simple premise, he started, his voice carrying clearly through the ballroom. That extraordinary achievements require both vision and perseverance. Over the past 7 years, we've witnessed the power of bringing together brilliant minds united by common purpose. He continued with an overview of the year's accomplishments, acknowledging key team members and breakthroughs. Olivia sipped her champagne, trying to ignore the strange hollowness in her chest. As she listened, before we continue celebrating, Harrison said, his tone shifting subtly, I'd like to acknowledge a significant transition. Many of you know that Olivia Tanaka will be leaving us next week for an exciting new opportunity. Murmurs rippled through the crowd as many turned to look at her. Olivia maintained a composed smile, though her heart hammered in her chest. Olivia joined Phoenix just over a year ago, Harrison continued. In that relatively brief time, she identified critical flaws in our flagship project, developed innovative solutions that have become industry benchmarks, and earned the respect of everyone from interns to NASA officials. He paused, his expression softening almost imperceptibly. Traditionally, we save our formal recognition for those who have been with Phoenix for at least 5 years. Tonight, however, we're making an exception. Thomas approached the stage, carrying a small crystal award shaped like the Phoenix logo. Harrison accepted it, then looked directly at Olivia. "Miss Tanaka, would you join me?" On legs that felt suddenly unsteady, Olivia made her way to the stage. The spotlight was warm on her skin as Harrison extended the award. "For exceptional contributions to aerospace innovation," he said formally, as she accepted the crystal phoenix. Then, more quietly as they stood side by side, "A small token of our appreciation." "Thank you," she managed, acutely aware of his proximity. And the hundreds of eyes watching them, Harrison turned back to the microphone. "We wish Olivia every success in her future endeavors. Global aerospace dynamics is gaining a remarkable talent." Polite applause followed as Harrison gestured for her to say a few words. Olivia stepped forward, gathering her composure. "Phoenix Horizon took a chance on me when I was just a newly graduated analyst with unconventional ideas," she began. "Not the opportunities I've been given here, the challenges I've faced, and most importantly, not the people I've worked with." Eyes flickered briefly to Harrison, "Have shaped me professionally and personally. I'll carry the lessons learned here throughout my career." She finished with gracious thanks, then descended from the stage to continued applause. As the formal program concluded and guests dispersed to enjoy the evening, colleagues approached to offer congratulations and farewells. Throughout it all, Olivia was painfully aware of Harrison moving through the crowd, always somehow in her peripheral vision, yet never directly engaging, near midnight. As the celebration began winding down, Olivia decided it was time to leave. She had said her goodbyes, expressed her gratitude, and maintained her composure. Anything more would only prolong the inevitable separation. She was retrieving her wrap from the coat check when she felt a presence behind her. Leaving without a proper goodbye? Harrison's voice was low, meant only for her. Olivia turned to face him. "I thought we'd already done that, very publicly." I was Phoenix's CEO acknowledging a valued employee. His eyes held hers steadily. "Not me saying goodbye to you." The distinction sent a tremor through her. And what would that goodbye entail? A conversation, somewhere quieter. He nodded toward a set of doors leading to the hotel's rooftop garden. 5 minutes of your time." Against her better judgment, Olivia followed him through the doors and up a short flight of stairs. The rooftop garden was deserted, city lights spreading before them like earthbound stars. A light snow had begun to fall, dusting the sculpted hedges and stone pathways. Harrison stopped at the balustrade, looking out over the cityscape. "I've been avoiding you," he admitted without preamble. "I noticed." It seemed prudent, professional. Olivia moved to stand beside him, careful to maintain a respectable distance. "We're good at that, aren't we? Being professional?" He turned to face her fully, snowflakes catching in his dark hair. "Too good, perhaps? What does that mean?" she asked, her pulse quickening. Harrison studied her face as if committing it to memory. "It means I've spent the past 2 weeks trying to convince myself that your departure is simply business, a talented employee moving on to advance her career. Nothing more. And I've failed spectacularly." His voice carried a rare vulnerability. "The thought of walking into Phoenix on Monday knowing you won't be there, ... it's unacceptable." Olivia's breath caught. "Harrison, I'm not asking you to decline Global's offer," he interrupted. "Your career advancement matters to me. But I am asking if there might be a way forward that doesn't require choosing between professional opportunity and personal possibilities." The implication hung between them, crystalline as the snowflakes drifting around them. Olivia searched his face, finding uncertainty in the man who always projected absolute confidence. "We've never even acknowledged that there are personal possibilities," she said carefully. "Haven't we?" A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "Perhaps. Not in words. Words matter in situations like this." Harrison nodded, taking a deliberate step closer. "Then let me be clear. Over the past year, you've become essential not just to Phoenix, but to me. I find myself thinking of you when you're not present, valuing your perspective, even on matters unrelated to work. Looking forward to moments alone with you, even when discussing technical specifications." He paused, vulnerability giving way to determination. "I've never pursued a relationship with an employee. It's complicated, potentially problematic, and definitely ill-advised." "All valid points," Olivia agreed, her heart racing despite her outward calm. "And yet," Harrison continued, his voice softening, "the prospect of not telling you how I feel before you leave seems like a far greater mistake." Snow continued to fall around them, the garden transformed into a private, white-dusted world. Olivia felt suspended between realities. The professional life she'd carefully constructed, and something new, undefined and exhilarating. "In 3 days," Harrison said, "you'll no longer be my employee. Once that line is crossed, would you consider having dinner with me? Not as colleagues discussing projects, but as two people exploring whether this connection between us deserves a chance." The question hung in the snowy air between them, simple yet profound in its implications. Olivia looked at the man before her, no longer the intimidating ghost, but Harrison, brilliant and unexpectedly vulnerable, waiting for her answer. New. "Horizons, yes," Olivia said, the single word carrying the weight of possibilities neither had dared acknowledge until now. "I would like that very much." Relief and something warmer crossed Harrison's face. He reached out, hesitating briefly before gently brushing a snowflake from her cheek. The touch was fleeting, but electric, a promise of what might come once professional. Boundaries no longer constrained them. 3 days, he said softly, his eyes holding hers. The remainder of Olivia's final week at Phoenix passed in a strange limbo, finishing documentation, attending farewell lunches, and exchanging contact information with colleagues who had become friends. Rassen maintained a respectful distance. During business hours, their interactions limited to necessary consultations about project transitions. Yet something had undeniably shifted, an unspoken understanding humming between them whenever they occupied the same space. On her final day, Olivia cleared her desk, placing personal items in a cardboard box that seemed inadequate to contain a year of memories. As she prepared to leave, her team surprised her with a small gathering in the break room. Amid hugs and well wishes, she scanned the room for Harrison, feeling a pang of disappointment when he didn't appear. "He's tied up in emergency board meetings," Dmitri explained, noticing her searching glance. "Budget crisis with the Europa project," Olivia nodded, forcing a smile. "Of course. Duty calls." She was halfway to the elevator when her phone chimed with a message. "Dinner? Tomorrow, 7 p.m. I'll send a car." True to his word, at precisely 6:30 the following evening, a sleek town car arrived at Olivia's apartment building. The driver handed her an envelope containing a single card with an address written in Harrison's distinctive handwriting, no restaurant name, just coordinates in a brief note. "Trust me." The car took her not to one of the city's upscale restaurants, as she'd expected, but to Phoenix Horizon's research campus on the outskirts of town. Confused, Olivia followed the driver's directions through the security checkpoint and along a path that led to the company's astronomical observatory, a dome-shaped building normally used for tracking Phoenix spacecraft and celestial navigation research. Harrison waited at the entrance, dressed not in his usual business attire, but in dark jeans and a charcoal sweater that softened his typically formal appearance. Seeing her confusion, he smiled. "Not the conventional first date venue, I know." "I'm beginning to think conventional isn't your style," Olivia replied, taking in his casual elegance with appreciation. "Says the woman who redesigned our propulsion system over takeout at midnight." He extended his hand. "Come inside." The observatory's interior had been transformed. The central tracking equipment remained, but surrounding. It was an intimate table set for two, complete with fine china, crystal glasses, and candlelight. Through the observatory's retractable roof, now fully open, the night sky spread above them in breathtaking clarity. "You once mentioned that your grandmother taught you constellation names in Japanese," Harrison explained as he pulled out her chair. "I thought you might enjoy an unobstructed view." Olivia looked up at the star-scattered sky, then back at Harrison, momentarily speechless. "This is ... extraordinary. Wanted somewhere private, somewhere meaningful." He poured wine into her glass. "Somewhere that represented both where we've been and where we might go." Dinner progressed with a surprising ease, professional formality giving way to personal revelations. Harrison spoke of his childhood fascination with space exploration, how he'd built model rockets in his parents' garage, and the engineering scholarship that had changed his life trajectory. Olivia shared stories of her mathematician father, her studies in Tokyo, and the passion for aerospace that had driven her since watching a shuttle launch at age 8. "I've rehearsed this evening in my mind all week," Harrison admitted as they finished dessert. "Planned what I would say, how I would explain what's happened this past year." "And how is reality comparing to those rehearsals?" Olivia asked, warmed by both wine and his unexpected candor. "Infinitely better." His smile reached his eyes, transforming his features. "You're no longer my employee, looking at me across a conference table. You're simply Olivia, looking at me across a dinner table. The difference is ... liberating." After dinner, he guided her to the observatory's main telescope, positioning it toward a particular section of sky. "Take a look." Olivia leaned forward, gasping softly as a distant nebula came into focus, swirling colors against the black of space. "The Phoenix Nebula," Harrison said, standing close behind her, "newly classified last month." "It's beautiful," she murmured, still gazing through the eyepiece. "I had a satellite redirected to capture better images," he admitted. "Probably an abuse of company resources." Olivia straightened, turning to face him with amused disbelief. "You repositioned a multi-million-dollar satellite for our first date?" "Technically, it was already scheduled for maintenance rotation," he said, his expression serious, though his eyes betrayed him. "I merely adjusted the timing." Laughter bubbled up from somewhere deep inside, her genuine, uninhibited. Harrison joined her, the sound of their combined amusement echoing in the domed space. When their laughter subsided, he was standing closer, the playfulness in his expression giving way to something more intense. "May I kiss you, Olivia? I've wanted to since that night in Geneva." In answer, she closed the distance between them. His lips met hers with gentle restraint that quickly deepened into something more urgent. Months of carefully maintained boundaries, dissolving in an instant. His hands cradled her face with unexpected tenderness, and Olivia felt herself responding with an intensity that surprised them both. When they finally separated, breathless, Harrison rested his forehead against hers. "Worth waiting for," he murmured. The weeks that followed established a new rhythm to their relationship: dinner at secluded restaurants, weekend hikes in the mountains, long conversations that stretched into the early hours. Free from workplace complications, they discovered each other anew, Harrison revealing a dry humor and quiet thoughtfulness rarely displayed at Phoenix. Olivia sharing passions and perspectives she'd kept carefully professional. Her position at Global Aerospace Dynamics proved challenging and rewarding, her innovation division quickly establishing itself as a creative powerhouse. Harrison supported her success wholeheartedly, offering advice when asked, but never overstepping. 3 months into their relationship, over breakfast at Harrison's penthouse, he raised an unexpected subject. "The Europa project is struggling without your input," he said, scanning reports on his tablet. "The team hasn't found anyone with your particular insight." Olivia sipped her coffee. "Global keeps me busy, but I could review their approach if you'd like." As a consultant, Harrison set down his tablet, expression thoughtful. "What would you think about a more formal arrangement, not employment, a strategic partnership between Phoenix and Global's innovation division?" "You mean between competing aerospace companies?" Olivia raised an eyebrow. "That seems complicated." "Not competing in all areas," Harrison countered. Phoenix specializes in deep space exploration, while global strength is near-Earth operations. There's potential complementarity. Olivia studied him, understanding dawning. You've already discussed this with Penelope, haven't you? Preliminary conversations, he admitted. She's open to exploring collaboration on non-competing projects. And this has nothing to do with finding a professional excuse to work together again, Olivia asked, hiding her smile behind her coffee cup. Harrison's eyes met hers, serious. Despite his slight smile, it has everything to do with that, and also with creating something unprecedented in the industry. Both can be true. 6 months later, the Phoenix Global Joint Innovation Initiative was announced to industry acclaim, with Olivia and Harrison as co-directors. Their professional reunion remained strictly separate from their personal relationship, which had deepened into something neither had anticipated when she first joined Phoenix Horizon as a newly graduated analyst. On the anniversary of their first official date, Harrison brought Olivia back to the observatory. The night was clear, stars brilliant above the open dome. Dinner waited, but Harrison seemed uncharacteristically distracted, leading her instead to the telescope. "Look," he instructed, positioning the instrument. "Same coordinates as last year." Olivia bent to the eyepiece, expecting to see the Phoenix Nebula. Instead, she found a small satellite in view, unusual markings visible on its surface. She adjusted the focus, realizing with a start that the markings formed words. "Olivia Toniquel, you marry me?" She straightened in shock, turning to find Harrison on one knee beside her, a ring held between his fingers, a stunning sapphire surrounded by diamonds that captured the starlight streaming through the open dome. "A year ago, I nearly lost you because I was too cautious to acknowledge what was happening between us," he said, his voice steady despite the vulnerability in his eyes. "I won't make that mistake again. You've transformed my life, Olivia, not just Phoenix Horizon, but my entire world. Will you continue our journey together as my wife?" Under the endless expanse of stars that had fascinated them both since childhood, Olivia gave Harrison her answer. Not because he was a successful CEO, it's not because of professional advancement or strategic alliances, but because in him she had found an equal, someone who challenged her mind, respected her ambitions, and loved her completely. "Yes," she said, the word echoing in the observatory dome as it had a year before. But this time, as Harrison slipped the ring onto her finger and rose to kiss her, it wasn't just the beginning of a possibility. It was the continuation of a journey that had started with cold professional distance and flowered into something neither could have calculated in their most ambitious projections. Later that night, as they lay together looking up at the stars, through the open dome, Harrison traced his fingers along her arm. "The board nearly had collective heart failure when I said I was repositioning a satellite for a marriage proposal." Olivia laughed, nestling closer against him. "I hope. You told them it was for a critical navigation experiment." "I told them it was for the most important mission of my life," he replied softly. "And for once not a single person argued with me. Ain't above them. Countless stars witnessed their plans for the future shared life where professional brilliance and personal connection weren't competing forces, but complementary ones, strengthening the other in an elegant system of their own design." The Phoenix Nebula continued its slow cosmic dance overhead, swirling patterns reflecting the unexpected trajectory that had brought them together from shadows and spreadsheets to new horizons neither could have navigated alone.